Joining me now is the Reverend Traci Blackmon, Executive Minister in Justice and Witness at Justice and Witness Ministries of the United Church of Christ. And she was one of the counter-protesters in Charlottesville. And thank you so much for joining me, Reverend Blackmon. We spoke over the weekend, first on Friday night, when you were inside of a church on the grounds of the University of Virginia. Donald Trump said that the night before the Saturday melee, there were good people who were quietly marching in Charlottesville, and he was talking about the white nationalist protesters. You were inside that church. Did you hear people quietly marching?
Thank you for having me on, Joy. And no, and I say these words with the utmost seriousness. I rarely use these words, but they apply here. Donald Trump is lying. And here's the deal. He spends more time on Twitter than he spends anywhere else. And what was happening Friday night was being live streamed. I am telling you that we were in a church having a worship service. At no point in that service was there even a protest. It was a multi-faith worship service in a standing room only capacity-filled church, with children, with mothers, with elderly, with people my age in the middle, and with young people. We were worshiping. And close to the end of our worship service, we received the message that we could not leave the church because a mob was approaching the church with torches. They were chanting, "Blood and soil." They were chanting, "You will not replace us." They were chanting, "Jews will not replace us." They were chanting, "White lives matter." And for over 30 minutes, we were not allowed to leave the church. When we were finally allowed to leave, we could not go out the front door for fear that we would be assaulted. We were ushered out the side door and the back into alleys. This is America in 2017. And I would not have believed it, Joy, as I was going to tell you before when we were trying to do an interview. I'm from Birmingham, Alabama. This is not the first time I've seen Klan rallies. It's not the first time I've seen Klan parades. But when I tell you that we got in a car to leave and had to drive through this mob, which was then on the sidewalks and not in the street, when I tell you that I wept as I saw people who had exchanged sheets for polos and Oxfords, many of them were wearing the Make America Great Again baseball cap, holding baseball bats in one arm and torches in the other. It is unconscionable that this president would suggest that that was a deserved thing that happened this weekend.
And I mean, as chilling as that is, the next day then was pretty violent. And this was the time that I was attempting to talk to you during the weekend show. I want to play you what Donald Trump had to say about the people who were there protesting the removal of the statue on Saturday. Take a listen.
You had a lot of people in that group that were there to innocently protest and very legally protest because, you know, I don't know if you know, they had a permit. The other group didn't have a permit.
And of course, his event today was about reducing the permitting and red tape for infrastructure, so that's ironic. He also said that the people who were in your group, in the counter-protesting group, were violent toward the alt-right, so-called alt-right protesters, and set upon them with clubs and other implements. Is that accurate?
Again, Donald Trump is lying. What I am telling you is, yes, they had a permit for the park. They did not have a permit to harm people. They did not have a permit to throw full bottles of water and full cans of soda and splatter urine on people who did not agree with them. Their permit did not cover that, Joy. And I'd like to ask Mr. Trump, he's had time now to make 3 different responses to this incident? Has he even taken a moment to call the family of Heather and offer condolences on behalf of this nation? Has he taken a moment to consider the 20 people who were hurt and offer the sympathy of this nation? This is not a leader. This is not a leader. And I am ashamed of what is happening in our highest office.
And lastly, Reverend Blackmon, who was in, just describe to us who were in your group, because Donald Trump has essentially described your group and the protesters, the counter-protesters, as equivalent to the neo-Nazis and white nationalists. Who was there to protest with you?
That's very interesting, because this was a faith-based led group, largely clergy, all people of faith. Different faiths. There were Jews, there were Muslims, there were Christians. There indeed were some people who didn't profess any faith in that way, but just had a moral consciousness that said to them, it is not okay for people to descend upon a city, by the way, where the majority of residents are the descendants of the enslaved. It is not okay for them to descend upon this city and to wreak terror. We knew that this was going to be violent because we had the flyers, the promotional flyers, that these groups had already sent out. There were flyers calling for a race war, flyers calling to say, we're coming to take our country back. Are you kidding me? And this president wants to talk about revising history? Read some history. Black people built this country.
And we know there were Black Lives Matter. We know there were some anti-fascist groups. Just lastly, in our last few seconds, in your view, as a witness to these events, were the anti-fascist groups perpetrating the violence, or were they the victims of the violence?
No, they were not. As a matter of fact, there were some clergy standing on the steps to the entrance of the park. They were not in the park. They were standing on the steps to the entrance of the park singing "This Little Light of Mine." These neo-Nazi groups came, burst through them with shields, began to beat them and trample on them. And the groups that Donald Trump are calling terrorists are the ones who saved their lives because the police were standing down. They saved their lives.
Wow. Thank you, the Reverend Traci Blackmon. Really appreciate you. You're a witness to both the Friday night and the Saturday events in Charlottesville. Thank you so much for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.